Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Gentech PC product showcase. Today we're going to be doing the full review of the Aorus X3. We have previously reviewed the Aorus X7, which is the 17-inch version of this laptop, and you can find that full review in our prior recordings. Today the X3 is going to jump down all the way to 13.9 inches. Despite skipping over the traditional 15-inch size completely, you'll be very surprised to find how much hardware power this laptop has and how many features are inside of it. So we'll cover all of those features in great detail as we go through the review, but we'll go ahead and start at the very basics with the unboxing. So as you can see, you can expect the standard double boxing that you get with high-end laptops. Our outside box is there to keep everything safe and protected during shipping, while the much nicer product box is on the inside. Once we open that up, we have access to the laptop right away, and that's on top, and we'll set that aside. Deeper in the box, we're going to have a little sleeve that contains all of our product, discs, manuals, and warranty information. Beside that, we're going to have our power brick, and the power cable that plugs into the power brick. If you'd like to do the math on how powerful the inverter is, here is all the details so you can multiply that out and get the wattage. So now it's time to kick things off, and right now we have the Aorus X7 that we previously reviewed right next to the X3. And this gives you a really great feel of the size differences between the two, going straight from 17-inch down to 13-inch. As far as differences for the end user, your two largest things to take to mind is that your screen is going to be smaller on the smaller laptop, but your portability factor is going to go way up. One of the most pressing issues on laptops with smaller screens is usually that you have to suffer with a lower screen resolution. That's not the case with the X3. It's actually boasting a quad HD resolution of 3200 by 1800, so it's just shy of a 4K resolution. That might actually just be slight overkill, but that's for you to decide. Now let's go move in and take a closer look at the X3 by itself. When you first open it up, you have the little thank you card saying thank you for purchasing, and we'll put that aside. And we have right underneath of that a really nice large microfiber cloth that you can use to keep the laptop clean of fingerprints and stuff on the screen. When you boot it up, we're going to give you an example of the boot time performance. In the small form factor of the X3 are two micro-SATA SSDs running in RAID 0. So we're simultaneously reading and writing to both of those disks, giving us very fast access times. Therefore, going from a cold boot is actually nice, quick, and easy. Specs-wise, the disks are 256 gigabytes each for a grand total of 512 gigabytes of system disk space. So how does the X3 measure up? Well, do you mean figuratively or literally? And right now we're showing the literal measurements with our measuring tape. You can see that the thickness is more or less around an inch, slightly smaller in the front versus the rear. And in addition to the actual measurements, the other important thing is going to be our weight. You can see the laptop itself is 4 pounds and 2 ounces, so it's very light. Of course, you're going to be expecting it light, but keep in mind we do have a lot of hardware inside of there. Once we add on our power brick, we're going to be up to 5 pounds and 11 ounces, so just shy of the 6 pounds mark for your full travel weight. To save you the trouble of doing the math, here is the power brick on its own, 1 pound and 9 ounces. Now it's time to get the X3 up on our stand and show you all the different angles. This gives you a great idea of what the look is going to be from each and every side, but most importantly, we get to look at all of our user interfaces. We're going to start on the right hand side where we see we have a multi-card reader and then two USB 3.0 ports. As we swing around a little bit further and we reach the rear of the laptop, we're going to find our exhaust vents for the cooling system and two connections. We have the DC port for our mains power and the RJ45 jack for our local networking. The local networking is coming from the Killer Gaming card, so we have a gaming grade local networking card. So that's really good for those who are into gaming. On the other side, the left side, we have a mini display port, we have HDMI, a USB 2.0 port, and our microphone and headphone jacks, which are both 3.5 millimeter. Additionally, on top of that, the interfaces that you can't see, we have Bluetooth 4.0 and wireless AC, which is the newest standard. Both of those are brought to you from a single combo card. Now we'll swoop in for a close look at the keyboard. So we're going to be losing our number pad, of course, because of the small form factor. Despite the small form factor, we do add in these gaming keys on the left-hand side for macros. This is definitely a laptop that's all about gaming, so we have as many gaming features on here as we possibly could. You'll see we have a very large glossy touchpad with embedded left and right clicks, and in the front we have our status LEDs. Moving inside of the operating system to look at the hardware, here is the device manager. Starting at the top, there's the Bluetooth 4.0. Down below that, we have the Intel Pro graphics and the dedicated Nvidia GTX870 mobile. So a very high-end video card despite the size of the laptop. Below that, we see the Intel AC wireless and the Killer E2200 Gigabit NIC. Our CPU is an Intel Core i7-4860HQ, and of course our monitor panel, the last thing, is the SHP1401 with a native resolution of 3200 by 1800 pixels. Now that we have the keyboard backlighting turned on, you can see we do have a fully backlit solution as far as the keyboard keys with multiple levels of brightness. It's not a very robust multicolored solution like you might find in some other gaming laptops, but it does give you the functionality you would need to see the keys in the dark. Now moving focus back over to the macro key set on the left hand side, you see that vertically you have 6 keys, 5 of them being numbered for your actual macros, and the top one, the G key, that one's there to cycle you through different profiles. So you can actually have 5 different profile sets on 5 keys. 5 times 5 is a total of 25 different macro sets you can have. Depending on whatever game or program you're using at the time, just activate the profile that you've set. If you think that those macro keys won't ever do you any good because it's only for games and you don't need it, you'd be wrong. It's actually really great for productivity, and Aorus went the extra step with their graphical user interface here to add a lot of productivity features and excellent little shortcut keys right into the interface for you. So this can help you add any kind of shortcomings you might have with not having the larger keyboard by adding your own custom shortcuts to commonly used features. So now we're going to move into the benchmarking segment of the review, and we're going to start with an unusual benchmark, and that's going to be the sound levels. We have a nice sound meter right next to the exhaust vent of the laptop, and this is while we're running gaming benchmark. So this is going to be a worst case scenario as far as how loud the system can get because we're already under a high load and we're right next to the sound source. It seems that despite putting the X3 into the worst case scenario, having our meter right next to the exhaust and running benchmarks, it's doing quite well. You'll see that as we make small changes to the position of the meter, that the sound levels continually go down much further. So moving from the rear of the laptop to the front of the laptop, the sound levels will drop some. Now right on top of the keyboard, still right on top of the system components, we're at 56 decibels. And as we move merely a few inches away from there, we drop all the way down to about 45 decibels. Now that our benchmarks are finished, let's take a look at the scores. 3D Mark 11 has a performance score of 7,175. Down below we have the GPU-Z information on the Nvidia GTX870 mobile, and in addition to that we have all the thermal readings that happened from that benchmark. Our CPU temperatures show that the average was good, and the max went a little bit warm on the CPU. Our GPU stayed nice and cool pretty much throughout the entire test. All of the temperatures are within normal ranges, so nothing to worry about as far as the cooling system. And also we want to show our current ambient temperature, as the ambient temperature does have a large effect on the cooling system. And here is just a really quick test with just how loud the speakers in this laptop can get. So we have our speakers turned up to a high level right now, while we're running the Firestrike benchmark. And you can see that this is a quite considerably much louder volume than what we had with the sound test for the system fans. The next test to be running is going to be our temperature scores. We're using an infrared thermometer and we're looking for any hot spots on the laptop where your hands would be sitting that would cause discomfort to you as a user. It's quite normal to see higher temperatures in the keyboard area and of course by the exhaust, because those are areas the system releases the internal heat. The places you don't want to see heat are where your hands would be resting on the palm rest, because that would be sweaty palms and very uncomfortable. And this is a new angle on things. We have yet tested the bottom of a laptop during the processing of a benchmark, so we went ahead and tried that one on this one as well. Firestrike has now concluded and we got a score of 4,257. You can see that this gives us very detailed information as far as the frames per second, GPU and CPU temperatures. Also, our disk scores, here is crystal disk mark to give you the read and write speeds of those RAID 0 SSDs. And now unfortunately we're moving into the final segment of our detailed review, and that's going to be the minor disassembly of the unit. In the case of the X3, disassembly is easy. We have a perimeter of screws along the outside edge that we have to remove, and then the entire bottom cover can come off. Please take care in when you remove the screws to note where they came from, because there are 6 long screws and 4 short screws. Placing the wrong size back in could cause damage. So let's get that bottom cover out of the way and take a look at the inside of the laptop. The majority of the space is taken by the internal battery, and on both sides, the left and right, we do have the system speakers for your sound. Above the battery, you're going to find 2 of your system RAM slots and also one of the M2 SSDs. Above the SSD, we're going to find our combo Bluetooth and wireless card and our CMOS battery. You'll see the dual cooling fan solution on the other top corners, and on the left hand side of the unit, the other M2 SSD. There's not a whole lot of internal upgrades to be done on this system due to its form factor and the idea that it comes so fully loaded out of the gate. And so everyone, we really hope you enjoyed our full detailed review of the Aorus X3. It's a really cool small form factor laptop that's definitely targeted at the enthusiast gaming community. If you'd like to learn more about this laptop, then visit our website gentechpc.com, and there on the product page we have the full system specs for this model and of course the current pricing and availability. Also, if there's any questions you would like to have help with, feel free to ask us here in the comments of this video or contact us by phone or email. So once again, we just want to remind you this was Gentech PC, and we'll see you next time.